they are not as hot,
Mhm.
and it actually affects how, not so much getting the moisture out, but how the clothes will feel and smell. There is some difference. Now, maybe with this finishing touch of a electric coil, it might mitigate.
Right. And Josie's is still vented. So hers has got the resistor and a vent. So it's kind of an in-between thing. Um, but
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, these are interesting devices.
So I got a question about the water heater.
Mhm.
Does it actually maintain the same temperature, or I don't know what mine is set at. It's set pretty high because there's a long line. It's from the bathroom to the
Yeah.
heaters. For the worst case, it's a
Yep.
diagonal across a rectangular.
Right. So mine, most the heat pump water heaters, they have a digital display and you just, punch in the temperature you want and it drives it there. So I keep mine at 130 Fahrenheit and in heat pump only mode, so it never kicks on the resistor. And it's great for us. It's a 50-gallon water heater. There are two of us in the house, and we've got a 60-gallon bathtub. And the gas-fired water heater used to run out of hot water it was a 40-gallon. It would run out on the bathtub. My wife would get disappointed with the, cool water coming to the tub at
Yeah.
the
It's-
end. And it, for us, that extra 10 gallons got us over the hump for those tubs. Um, but yeah, anyway, I think the temperatures are all, they're all possible. In fact, these new 120 volt versions, GE is coming out with one that they'll have an integrated electronic mixing valve. So it'll let you run the unit to a real high temperature, like 150 or 160, which is too hot to deliver into the pipe. It'll scald people, but it mixes it down with the cold water line and is only putting, say, 120, 130, 140, whatever you program into the mix valve. So then they're using the tank as, again, a thermal battery. They're really storing a lot of energy in the tank.
that's interesting.
Now you said we can learn how to do this, put these stuff in ourselves, that like the mini split or the heat pump, or can you put those in yourself, or you should have a contract?
I mean, my friends and I did it ourselves, but you know, we're relatively confident through practicing, like with sun work. That's a couple of
This is
so
help you with the heat pumps and the mini splits. Is that right?
no, sun work only focuses on solar installations, but the
Okay.
skills they use, or they do conduit and 240-volt circuits from the solar to the panel. So
Okay.
by doing a few of those things, we learned to bend conduit and run wire
Okay.
circuits, and that builds the confidence to be able to do the same thing for the heat pump water heater. Because back when I put mine in, there were only 240-volt versions, and so mine's a hardwired 240-volt thing, and then same with the mini split. I put a 120-volt mini split in, but I ran a new circuit myself out to a new outlet for that. So I think it's the kind of thing you can watch a few YouTube videos and see if it's the type of project you want to take on. But the brand I used was Mr. Cool, and they have some great
Okay.
videos on how to do the installs yourself
Yeah,
for
that
mini
was.
splits.
It doesn't look too bad, but I feel uncomfortable hooking up the lines to the
Mhm.
sensor. I guess is where I'd feel a little bit.
The refrigerant line or the electrical?
I almost think the refrigerant. I'd have an electrician come in and put in the electrical.
Yeah. Yeah, the refrigerant line, it was already it's charged and sealed, and so I never had to handle any refrigerant. I didn't have to do the vacuum,
Mm.
pull a vacuum on it and dry it out. I didn't have to test the pressure, any of that. It's just connected up, keep it clean, keep it in
Mhm.
its plastic bag until you're ready to connect it, then take the bags off the ends and put them together. Use two wrenches so that you're not twisting the pipe. If you only use one wrench on that soft copper, you
Mhm.
could tear the thing off the machine. So you use two wrenches on the nuts, and you tighten it up. But I'd watch the videos and see what you think. The one little thing I did add to the install, I bought a little bit of the refrigerant grease to put on the nuts and threads for that one little connection. But I'm only doing, one threaded connection on the liquid line and one on the gas line. There are two lines on the line set. So
Okay.
it's not like I only did 2 joints total. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay. Okay.
So it's
Okay, I'll
not
have to
like when
check
I was
them
in
out.
college and we had to do, longer line sets. At Cal Poly, they made us take a refrigeration class.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I thought it was silly back then. I'm going, hey, what do you know?
Okay.
I'll tell you, I can leave this on. I'm kind of saturated and have a couple of
Okay.
things to do it. But if Tom has the energy and I know Ken has the questions,
I might have a couple more.
Well, yep.
so
Uh,
I'm gonna step away and thank Tom for coming
All right.
and Ken for your very
Well, it was very
receptive questions.
worthwhile. I really thank you for putting it together.
Yes, thank you very much, Gary, and thanks for
Yeah.
inviting me. And
Yeah, it was a kind of a rough stop. I've had a few rough starts before, but I'm totally perplexed how 2 URLs got distributed.
yeah,
Well,
And
it's a
then
good
I
thing
had the wrong one,
right. Well, it's all Putin,
it-
Yeah,
it's a good thing because at 7:05, I was having trouble getting on. I didn't get on till about 7:15, and you guys hadn't started yet. I said, "Oh, thank goodness they're so late," because I didn't miss the beginning of it that way.
yeah. Well, I was on a different URL and one other fellow. Oh, there's Chuck Barrett is still here. And the two of us are talking, wonder what's going on. I guess while you're here, Chuck. Hello, Chuck.
Yeah, I'm still here. What's up?
Yeah, so what was the source of the URL you used?
It was in the meeting invite. That is a very good question. I want to say it was the invitation you'd sent around in the last email, Guadalupe group.
The Guadalupe group one.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So that what Sean was sent out was the one where everybody else signed in. And I thought I just copied, well, I just sent Tom and Bret the Guadalupe letter. Isn't that what I did, Tom? Didn't I just send you the letter?
yes,
Yeah, I guess it's Putin.
yep. But the letter got me in, but I couldn't see. I wasn't a host.
Yeah, I know. And
Weird.
somehow, well, we're all here. Okay, so I'm gonna just move this off my screen, and as long as you guys have energy, go at it.
Okay.
Good night.
All right. Good night, Gary.
So you have time for a couple more, Tom?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
So I mentioned the problem I'm having with my house, and that I couldn't imagine a worse, more poorly designed furnace. I mean, I
It
can't
sounds
believe that
it
it would be
sounds
approved.
sturdy though. If it's 1963.
1964, and it's still going strong. So, but I noticed my utility bill is, I got my PG&E, how do you compare to your neighbors? And I'm the devil incarnate, I think, when it comes to energy efficiency with this furnace. So somehow I understand furnaces usually get less efficient as they get older.
Yeah, I don't know how much they degrade, but one thing that does degrade is ductwork. So, ductwork can get damaged and be leaking air so it's not getting where you want it. And so that may be the bigger source of your problem.
I don't know.
Say, is the
But
duct
if I wrapped it in insulation, does that solve the problem, or that still doesn't solve the problem?
No, because leakage is leakage as opposed to conduction. So
Okay.
so wrapping it
There's
in
more leakage
insulation
than
helps.
conduction.
the conduction, but if it's just blowing air, like the raccoons have disconnected a couple of things, that might be what's
Well,
going on.
I probably have a whole eighth of an inch of fiberglass surrounding the pipes.
Oh yeah,
Surrounding the duct.
just enough to be itchy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's like almost comical how little insulation there is.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, but my guess will be that there's a bunch of duct leakage. And it could also be the house could have a bunch of hidden leaks in the walls going, from the top plate up into the attic. Do you have an attic, I guess?
I do.
Yeah, so a lot of times we've got places where the pipes, say vent pipes, go up through the walls, and then that'll have a big gap, and so the walls become a little chimney going up into the attic. That's a problem in the house. But by just your idea of adding a mini split downstairs is a way to just add more heat and control and cooling, but more control to the problem. And
I
then
wonder
maybe,
that's because you mentioned start small.
yeah.
If I put in a mini split,
Mhm.
and it's a pretty big room, it's probably well, including the kitchen, it's probably 600 or 700 feet,
Mhm.
square feet.
Yep.
So that would be what, 12,
Yeah, maybe,
1200,
yeah, 12,000 would probably be a good
12,000
size.
to you.
Yep.
And would that serve 80% of my heating and cooling needs? And
Yeah,
I
I
may
think
not
so.
need a
Right.
standard furnace?
That would be able to do a whole lot of it. The one thing it can't do is what we talked about. It can't rock it up real quick in the morning. And so
Right.
if you're trying to rocket it up, you'll be adding your gas heat to try to get there. But if you're
This is
just
the source
trying
of
to,
this is
yeah.
the source of my, it's freezing cold downstairs
Mhm.
and it's hotter than blazes upstairs
Mhm.
because it
Yep.
turns on for 5 minutes
Yeah,
and the rooms that have ducts in them heat up
yeah,
in 5 or 10 minutes.
yeah.
And then
This will
anything
be
that's not heated properly, it never
right,
gets hot because
right,
the furnace only goes on a few minutes at a time.
right. You might save a lot of energy because what's going on upstairs is you're overheating all that air, and then that overheated air is leaking out.
Right.
And so if you're able to get the bottom comfortable, and so you're not overheating the air, any air that's leaking out is not overheated air. It's, has less energy in it. So you'll be, in a way, cutting your infiltration losses by putting in the mini split and keeping the upstairs and downstairs temperatures closer together. You'll cut your infiltration losses. Also, you'll cut the runtime on the furnace, and that will, if you do have a duct leak problem, that'll cut the duct leak losses a little.
Well, I'm
But
thinking the furnace will run longer, won't it? Because the furnace hardly runs at all now.
the furnace will run even less when you put a mini split downstairs, I think.
Well, I don't
Part of the
know.
time the furnace runs is trying to handle the downstairs. You're because you're
It's a
saying
car
you're
level. The thermostat's in the middle.
okay, but it sounded like you feel like you're overheating the upstairs in order to get the downstairs comfy.
The living room where the thermostat is comfy. Downstairs, below the area of the living room is cold, and upstairs it's too hot.
Yeah. So I think what'll happen is the middle will stay just as comfortable, the bottom will get warmer, and the top won't overheat when you're starting to add more heat at the bottom where you want it. Because that'll help heat the middle, which will mean you don't have to turn on the furnace as much, and so the top won't overheat.
What I'm hoping is that the mini split will heat,
Mhm.
and if it's not less than 45 or 50 degrees outside, it'll maybe heat enough to heat up the upstairs.
Mhm.
But on the really cold nights, the mini split's not going to handle it.
Right.
But I got a furnace. I just turned the furnace on those nights. It just
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's the way I would approach it too.
So
And
I might
I
be able
don't.
to go another 50 years on the same furnace.
Yeah, yeah. I would look at those ducts to see if they're really leaking. They can do They call it a HERS test or a duct blaster test, but it is sounding like it's possible they're disconnected somewhere.
But those can be sealed, can't they? Or do they have to
Yeah.
be replaced?
Yeah, they can be sealed. Hopefully there's not that asbestos on them. The
I got
white
asbestos on the boots.
on the boots, but not
I got
elsewhere.
asbestos on the boots, but there's no asbestos that I can see
Mhm.
anyplace else. There's
Yeah, I think
asbestos on the boots, and there's asbestos on the hood above the furnace. But I haven't seen anything else to me that looks like asbestos.
Yep, good. Yeah, it seems tempting when you see that, that much of it just to paint it in place. Paint the asbestos, say with spray paint. And so
Mhm.
then it's all stuck down. It's not friable into the air anymore.
Yeah, it looks pretty solid. It's
Mhm.
not, doesn't look friable to me. It looks like a solid surface.
Mhm.
So I haven't been too concerned about
Okay.
having it there.
Yeah, I think, with the stuff I see I think on my boots are also have that, it's like a tape on it that looks kind of crusty. And that's the stuff that bothers me.
What's the likelihood they're going to come up with some sort of a rebate for people putting in heat pumps?
Uh, I wouldn't be surprised. There's a tax credit right now. I think it's 300 or 500, I forget. But currently the IRS, has a tax credit on it, but it's not
Oh, I didn't know that.
substantial. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard because they have both pieces of information posted on the web. You can find that there's no credit and you can find there is a credit. But the one I trust is the Energy
Okay.
Star. If you look at Energy Star and federal tax credits, you'll find them mentioning that there is this year a tax credit on heat pumps.
Well, my concern, I hear all the people extol the virtues of electric cars. I have an electric car. There are limitations with an electric car, and the advertisements don't bring up the limitations, but there are limitations to it.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, if you have two cars and one's gasoline and one's electric,
Right. You've got
I
a
mean,
fleet.
we can use our car 90% of the time. We can use the electric car, and it's fine.
Yep.
10% of the time, it doesn't work. It's just not a good solution for
Right.
us.
Right.
And maybe that'll change if you get batteries that I can recharge in 5 minutes, and I can go 300-400 miles without recharging them.
Yep.
But that hasn't happened yet.
Right. Right. Yep. Things are getting better, but not to that degree yet. But they're headed in the right direction. They're headed towards. I was listening to a battery talk today. They're hoping to get batteries in a few years that are 15 minutes to charge with 80% levels.
And
So,
will they be affordable?
oh no, you can
You mean
only
for cars
ever
or for
have
homes?
two things, not three. It's either
Yeah.
fast, long range, or affordable. You have to pick any two.
Well, I think the problem that I have, one of the problems I have with solar, I mean, solar is the cheapest form of energy out there. But the problem is that batteries are the most expensive.
Mhm.
And you can't have solar without having batteries unless you're going to supplement it with natural gas.
Mhm.
And so solar is not the perfect solution
Right.
yet,
Well,
and hopefully it will be in the future, but
yeah.
not if batteries cost $10,000.
Yeah, I saw, as a utility planner, I watch a lot of utility talks, and there was a great one the other day about high voltage DC grids and putting one across the US. And it looked like doing this high voltage transmission so that you move energy from where you've got too much solar to where you don't have enough, and then backflow again from their resources like wind. It looked like we could go a long way to reducing the amount of batteries we need by having better transmission. And California's been kind of insular about their transmission grid. I don't know if you recall, a couple of years ago, the voters voted not to let the CAISO go into a day ahead market mode in the in the Western states.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so it was kind of a reaction by the environmental groups. Not, they were afraid that if they did that, and this was during the Trump administration, that other states would undermine California's RPS, the Renewable Portfolio Standards. I don't have that worry, but anyway, so I'm a big believer in big grid to do a lot of the evening out that you've shown that you understand we have these problems with, and I think transmission can really help us out a lot, and it can decrease the total amount of batteries we need. But just like you've pointed out, any car charging we can do during the day is a stationary battery we don't need to charge the car at night.
It's already there.
Yeah, right. Right. It's better to put the energy into the car once than to put it into a stationary battery and then into the car at night.
You take the loss every time you put in the battery and
Yep.
you take it out of the battery, put it in another battery, you just end up losing energy every single time.
Right. Right.
This
So
has,
yeah. So then the trick is, okay, how do we design policies and hardware that give us more opportunities to be charging the car in the daylight? Like,
Well, if PG&E pays somebody with a solar cells retail
Mhm.
for the so-called surplus energy,
Mhm.
and then the PV owner buys it at retail, granted, typically it's at a higher rate, but even so, PG&E is paying 15 or 20 cents or whatever retail is during the day for energy that they could just as well buy maybe
2 or
for a
3
nickel,
cents.
or maybe they're paying people to get rid of that energy that they're paying the solar customer for
Right.
in terms of credits.
Yep.
And
That's
so
why
not
we
only
need
are we
NEM
losing a
reform.
customer,
Yeah.
because they would have ordinarily been paying the money for that. Now they've got to, normally the customer would have paying PG&E, but now PG&E is paying the customer. And needless to say, PG&E is not going to operate for no profit. They're going to continue making the profits. So somebody else has got to pay for all the loss. And that's going to be the people who are not solar customers. And so when there's only one person left that's not solar, how much are their rates going to be?